So I think we should go ahead and start the MSA annual business meeting. Thanks everybody for coming virtually this year. I do think actually we probably have attendance as good or better than our usual in-person meetings. So thank you very much for signing on. It would help us if everybody would mute themselves when they're not speaking. And you're very welcome to turn off your video if you would like. We will be recording the meeting because there are a few people who couldn't make the time. So I just want to make sure everybody knows. And then if you have questions, we'd really appreciate it if you would put those into the chat so we can take them after each part of the meeting and during the open forum. So as you can see, this should be a short meeting as usual, a brief president's report followed by the secretary's report and the treasurer's report, and then a chance to discuss and ask questions. So, to start the president's report, I can't help it. I was given this lovely gavel as president. I've just given up the presidency, but I think this could be one last chance to call the business meeting to order. So there you have it. So this is the year that MSA started their second century. And I just like to begin by remembering at the end of last year when we were all meeting in Phoenix and we were celebrating MSA's centennial. We had this wonderful symposium in June in Washington, DC, and then a lot of activities at Phoenix GSA to commemorate that. So now we're in the next century. And what do we see on the horizon? Well, this past year, for me, one of my main emphasis areas was membership. Many professional societies have faced declining membership over the last decade or so, and MSA's hasn't been particularly precipitous, but it too had been declining. And I'm very happy to say that in the last few years, that's been stabilizing, in part due to a lot of effort by a lot of different people. One of the groups that I'd like to point out is our newly revitalized membership committee. They met over the past year and made recommendations to the council this past meeting, which just concluded a few hours ago. And they made some recommendations that we can definitely take advantage of. And some of them I will be describing and Kim will be describing in her secretary's report. We also had a diversity task force that stood up over the summer. It was co-chaired by our Vice President, Mark Piorso, and Tyler Spann, one of our early career members. And they also came up with many very good, very strong recommendations, a number of which we're able to implement immediately and others that we'll work on over the coming year. We also had some excellent experiences in our American Mineralogist office. They made a special effort to reach out to our early career members and invite them to become reviewers for the journal. And many responded with enthusiasm. We're really pleased to see that involvement in our community. And then finally, I'd just like to remind everybody that there is the MSA Undergraduate Award. Any member can recommend undergraduates to receive this award, and it comes with a free publication and also a free year of membership. And it's another way for us to get the next generation into the society. And of course, many of us also sponsor graduate student memberships, and I hope you'll all consider that as a way to encourage and broaden participation in MSA. We also spent a lot of time this year on education and outreach. Of course, education changed overnight with the pandemic and our mad rush to go to online and other kinds of virtual teaching. And through MSA Talk, we found out about a lot of great resources to help us in our teaching. These are now all online on the website. Hopefully we'll have lots of sharing and additions to those over the coming months. Another thing we did was the brainchild of our executive director, Ann Benbow, who founded the first of many, many Minerals Days. So from here on out, the first Monday of Earth Science Week will be recognized as Minerals Day. And Kim will be showing you the website and some of the things that go on. Again, I hope this is something that brings mineralogy and petrology to the attention of the younger generation and helps sustain us in the long run. And then finally, a long awaited development is our updated website, which will be rolling out in the next 6 months. And also we have expanded our social media presence some from Facebook to now include also Twitter, but that will be probably expanding further in the coming year. And then finally, from me, I'd just like to talk a little bit about the importance of planning for the future. Of course, the future is uncertain, but we do need to be forward-facing. So we have revitalized a long-term planning committee that will help us keep an eye on some of the big changes up ahead of us, including, for instance, open access publishing, which is quite a change. Comparable to going from paper to digital, going from subscription-based to open access. And that has big implications for MSA. We're also very concerned and interested in tracking trends in higher education in the areas of mineralogy and petrology. And so we have planned a study that will be based on a survey of members in academia to find out how mineralogy and petrology are being taught and what kinds of careers our students are going into to identify trends and be able to anticipate change. And also in the future, I think what you'll see is an expanded emphasis for the Society on engaging and mentoring the next generation, which we'll accomplish in a variety of different ways. So that concludes my short report. And so if we have any questions, I'll be happy to take them. But I think what I'll do now is I will turn the floor over to Kim so she can tell us what's going on in her secretary's report.
Thank you very much, Carol. I've had the honor to serve as the MSA secretary this year, and I will be showing you quite a few things that I would like to cover in my presentation, some of them very positive, and and we'll take some moments to honor some of our members, both past and present. So to start off with, we have 2,036 total members, 1,082 regular, life, early career, and sustaining members, 259 senior members and senior fellows, 335 fellows, regular, life, and sustaining, and 360 student members. And as Carol mentioned, the more we can do to support graduate students and students to join our society, I would highly encourage that. I'd like to take a moment to honor our 25 and 50-year MSA members. We have quite a list of people here, and I don't want to sit here and read them all off, but just take a moment to reflect on some of these long-standing members in our society. So next time when we're in person, we'll have to celebrate all of these members. So grant awardees. So the Cross Crystallographic Research Grant is going to go to Professor Chowdhury at Kent State University, and the grant is for the role of mineral surfaces coatings on colloidals in controlling metal transport in acid mine drainage impacted areas. The Mineralogy and Petrology Research Grant goes to Besna Hassini from Montana State University, Reentrants, Reliable Recorders of Magma Decompression Rates, and also Hannah Tompkins from the University of Rochester, Understanding Circumstable Isotope Fractionation in Magmatic Environments, Insights from Experimental Systems. So I'd like to congratulate all of these awardees. And again, in the future, when we can all be together, we'll have to celebrate these wonderful awardees. American Mineralogist, 2020 year to date, has had 1,919 pages, 370 submissions with a 56% acceptance rate, 163 papers published, and 127 of those, 78%, are from non-US authors. And Rachel's on here, so congratulations to Rachel for all of the hard work and some of the editors and other staff for such wonderful numbers. As Carol mentioned, we had such a beautiful presentation online this year. We've now taken over the mineralsday.org website, or a domain, to have host this website. And I think it was very successful this year. So October 12th, day 2 of the Earth Science Week was celebrated as Minerals Day, and this microsite was launched. We had 2 downloadable posters, educational resources online, and Anne has mentioned that she has a lot more to be uploading to this site. So this is just the first year of many, I think, that will grow the site more and more. And she's going to be working with many partners, with the GIA, AGI, USGS, IMA US as well, to be able to populate this microsite. And you know, the more we can do to support minerals and minerals education is all the better. So we have the MSA lecture program. So the 2019-2020 MSA Distinguished Lecturers are Joshua Fenberg from the Department of Earth Sciences at the University of Minnesota. And he's got 2 different presentations. Jacqueline Penna from a Faculty of Geoscience and Environmental at the University of Lausanne, Switzerland, and Laura Waters from New Mexico Institute of Mining and Geology in Socorro. And this is our list of in memoriam for this year. And I'd like to take a moment to honor all of our members, our fellows, our senior fellows that are on this list. There are some very important members that we have lost this year. And so I'm going to take a moment for us to all reflect on this list. And moving on to the election results. Our president, as of a few minutes ago, is Mark Gorso, OFM Research. Our new vice president is Pamela Burnley from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Our treasurer is Glenn Gattani from Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. I remain in office as secretary. Our new counselors are Bob Bodner from Virginia Tech and Jennifer Jackson from Caltech. And we all would like to thank our outgoing counselors, Jay and Donna, for all of their hard work on council. So our committees and those who volunteer to serve on them do much of MSA's work. Details of the committees can be found on our website. And anybody that's wishing to serve, I highly recommend you do it. It's a very rewarding and enjoyable experience. I can say that. I've served both as a counselor and now as secretary. Please contact Pamela Burnley. She is the chair of the Committee on Committees, and also encourage your students, graduate students, and members of your departments as well to serve. And I believe that's all for me. So thank you.
Okay, we can now move on to the treasurer's report. The purpose of this report is to give an update on the financial picture for the organization. There's a financial team that has put forth a lot of time and effort in the organization, and that of course includes our executive director, Ann Benbow, our accountant, Mary Edos Swan, the Financial Advisory and Audit Committee, which is headed very ably by Mark Van Ballen, and the committee members shown here. And our investment advisor is Jeff LeClaire from Wells Fargo. For those of you not that familiar with the sources of income and expenses for the organization, this kind of gives a very broad summary. Our income, 70% or so, comes from American Mineralogist and RIMG. And then there's a variety of other sources. And the major expenses are the business office and the editorial office of American Mineralogist, which also amount to about 70% of the expenses of the organization. So the budget for 2019, we can talk about that because all that information is complete. The good news is our income was up about 9%, but our expenses were up even more. And there was a fairly large operating loss for the year. Now, 2019, I'll get into this in a minute. 2019 was a very unusual year in terms of the overall expenses in the organization. An audit was performed by Citrin Cooperman, our auditors, and the result was perfect, completely clean. As far as the 2020 budget goes, of course, everything is still ongoing, and we can't really draw any conclusions yet at this point. So one of the main things that's been going on in the organization, as many of you know, over the last few years is there's been a lot of transition in the staff. So our long-serving executive director, Alex Spear, retired and has been replaced by Ann Benbow. And so for the year 2019, we had basically 2 executive directors overlapping. We've also made a big investment in information technology, and that transition is being led by Gloria McFarland. And we've also hired a part-time accountant to handle some of the financial tasks. So all of that has impacted the finances of the organization, and particularly the 2019 was the peak year for that because of the overlap of the executive directors. And so we expect some of those expenses to come down, but not all of them. MSA has 6 investment accounts that provide resources for the organization. These include the Roebling Fund and the MSA Endowment Fund, which provides support for general activities of the organization, the Krauss Crystallographic Fund, and the MinPet Fund, which support those particular awards. We have the Alex Spear Outreach Fund, and the Bloss Optical Crystallography Fund. So as of June, as of June 30th, the total amount was slightly less than $3 million, and that's bounced back a little bit since then. So I think we're around a little bit more than 3.1 million right now in total. Looking at sort of the long-term picture, we've had some modest growth over the last decade. But the last 4 or 5 years has been pretty flat. And that's due to several factors, partly the market performance, and partly some redemptions from the funds to cover some of the costs of the transition. So this is just a few words about the investments. We're split between equities and fixed income, about 2/3 and 1/3. We have pretty highly ranked funds, and we have about a 32% increase in performance over a 10-year period, but we've been pretty flat over the past 5 years. So as far as the coming year budget for 2021, it's been the practice of MSA for a long time to have a pretty conservative incremental budget. We're going to keep the member dues the same. There'll be no increase in the dues. We now, as many of you know, have this early career member category, which seems to be working well and is attracting a lot of interest. And then with regard to the American Mineralogist, we have relatively modest increases for both individuals getting paper copies, but of course there aren't that many of those anymore, and also for institutions. So we expect probably perhaps some operating loss, but much reduced this year or for next year. So to summarize, MSA is currently completing a transition period with some significant financial challenges. We've gotten through the main part of that, and I think the organization is on a good footing going forward. Our investment performance has been fairly modest. There are some issues. I mean, the investment environment, I think, remains fairly uncertain. As was discussed earlier, we've had a bit of a membership decline. And while the American Mineralogist is doing very well right now, there are future challenges on the horizon. And in particular, how we respond to increasing demands for open access will be an important component of the organization. So it's important that I think we need to be careful about making sure that the organization has sufficient funds going forward to complete its mission. And we need to focus on things like increasing the membership, as Carol has worked on, and Anne very much, and fundraising and other activities that can help sustain and support the organization. So that's what I have to say. So any questions or comments, I think we can address.
Well, thank you, Tom. There is one question from Barb Dutro that I think you can address, Tom, and that is whether American Mineralogist income is mainly from subscriptions or from Geoscience World.
Yeah, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. We could get that information. Both are very important. So Geoscience World has been a really important source of funding for a source of income for American Mineralogists. It's worked out very well, but we still have many libraries that subscribe. So both of those are the important income streams. We also have a relationship with De Gruyter. They also support American Mineralogists as part of a portfolio of publications, and we get some income from them. It's a bit less than we get from the libraries or from Geoscience World, but all three are important. I don't know if Rachel has anything to add there, or Anne.
No, you nailed it. I mean, Reuters is definitely a smaller amount of money, but it's a newer relationship. So. And Geoscience World and the direct library subscriptions that we have are both very, very important.
We also get subscriptions through third parties. And so, you know, they're like Harasowitz, groups like that handle some of our institutions. So they come from a number of different directions, but the biggest one is Geoscience World.
We're ready for any question you want to type in the chat, so don't hesitate. It appears that everybody is completely satisfied with the reports you've just heard, which is very gratifying, of course. So with no further questions, it's my position to thank you for coming and thank you for being loyal supporters of MSA. And we look forward to seeing you either virtually or ideally next year in person. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you.